State of war. That's right. Our focus today is on what is being described as the Super Tuesday in the Battle of 2021, where 4 states and a union territory have all voted today. And we're going to start our special coverage where we will assess who's ahead and who's behind and what are the X factors that could well decide who's winning these elections. We're going to start with the state, the crucial battleground state of West Bengal, where voting today took place for the 3rd phase, with most of the Trinamool Congress strongholds of southern Bengal going to the polls. Sporadic incidents of violence were reported once again, with the TMC candidate from Arambagh constituency coming under attack. Polling was also accompanied by controversy over the recovery of an EVM and paper audit trail machines from a TMC leader's home. What happened on ground zero is our first focus. Battleground Bengal.
Round 3 of high-octane Bengal battle. Voting was held in 31 constituencies spread across South 24 Parganas, Howrah and Hooghly, traditional TMC bastions. The fate of 205 candidates, including heavyweights such as BJP's Shwapan Das Gupta, TMC Minister Ashima Patra and CPIM's Kanti Ganguly, are sealed. The TMC has high hopes from this phase. In 2016, it had won 29 out of 31 seats, nearly securing 50% of the vote share. The voting was largely peaceful, barring some instances of violence. TMC candidate from Arambagh constituency, Sujata Mondal, came under attack. Her PSO reportedly suffered a head injury. The party has lodged a complaint with the EC.
গ্রামবাসীদের ভয় দেখিয়ে মহিলাদের ভয় দেখিয়ে মহিলাদের কাপড় খুলে নিয়েছে অনেককে বলেছে তোরা যদি তৃণমূলকে ভোট দিস তোদেরকে রেপ করে খুন করব এই হুমকি দিয়েছে বিজেপি দুষ্কৃতীরা সেটা খবর পেয়ে যখন আমি একটা মহিলা হিসেবে ছুটে এলাম আমাকে এলোপাতাড়ি মারা হয়েছে
Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee alleged goons from outside the state were behind the attack.
বাইরে থেকে এসে গুন্ডামি করছে torture korche with full evidence. I am telling you, it is not that only I am telling you, all the press and media is also showing the things.
Meanwhile, a political war erupted after an EVM and paper audit trail machines were found at TMC leader Gautam Ghosh's house in Howrah on Monday night. The BJP alleged there's a big bid to rig voting. The EC said it was a reserve EVM and has been removed from the poll process.
हमारी मांग है कि इलेक्शन कमीशन खुद डिटेल में इसकी जांच करे और आवश्यक कड़ी कार्रवाई करे, क्योंकि ये साधारण अपराध नहीं है, ये चुनाव प्रक्रिया के साथ एक तरह से धांधली का व्यवहार है.
As voting was held for 3rd phase of polls, campaigning continued for the 4th phase. Prime Minister Narendra Modi returned to battleground Bengal, repeating his Didi jibes at Mamata.
आदरणीय दीदी, ओ दीदी, अरे दीदी, देखिए दीदी पूछ रही है हम भगवान है क्या, हमें विजय का कैसे पता चल गया.
প্রতি ইলেকশনের দিন আসে আর মিটিং করে ভাষণ দেয় আর বলে দিদি দিদি ব্যাঙাচি জানেন তো ব্যাঙাচি ব্যাঙের বাচ্চাকে বলি ব্যাঙাচি আর ওরা দেয় ভ্যাঙাচি মানে আমাকে ভ্যাঙাচ্ছে আমাকে যত আমি তত খুশি তার মানে আমার ইম্পর্টেন্স আছে বলেই তো ভাঙাচ্ছো না
3rd phase of polling done, 5 more to go. The tone and tenor continues to be as fiery. But the question still remains, will Mamata Banerjee be able to hold on to her strongholds, or will the BJP succeed in painting the state saffron? The countdown to May 2nd is well and truly on. With Indrajit Kundu, Prema Rajaram, Suryagni Roy and Anupam Mishra, this is Polami Saha reporting for India Today.
So let's right away start. Who's ahead in the battle for Bengal as we inch towards the halfway mark? Can X factors in Bengal at the very top? First, X factor. Can the Trinamool Congress retain its bastion? Remember, this was an area it swept in 2016. South Parganas, Howrah, Hooghly. Will tickets to turncoats lead to dissension in the BJP? Has the BJP, remember, given many tickets to defectors from Trinamool left? Can the BJP win over the scheduled caste vote? Crucial, because the BJP has built a Hindutva plus caste alliance today in Bengal, and that's being tested in this phase. Will Muslim plus Mahila be a winning ticket? The Trinamool Congress is relying this time on sweeping Muslim votes and getting a high woman turnout in its favor. And will the left Congress take away the anti-Mamata votes? Remember, the elections could be triangular in some parts of southern Bengal. My first guests are pollsters. Sanjay Kumar, CSDS Director, joins me. Yashwant Deshmukh, founder editor of C Voter, which has also been polling on these elections, is with us. Sajjan Kumar, political researcher, People's Pulse, who's gone on a limb and predicted a major BJP victory ahead of the polls. And Jayanto Ghoshal, senior journalist, is joining me at the moment. So we are going to focus first on the state of Bengal. Appreciate all four of you joining me at the moment, and I'm going to come to you one by one to see whether what you read from the turnout and what we've seen so far. Yashwant Deshmukh, since your poll before the election suggested that the Trinamool was leading, is there anything that you've seen in these 3 rounds that leads you to believe it's a much tighter contest? What trends are you picking up from what the voters so far indicate?
Well, Rajdeep, I'm privy to the exit poll and post-poll data, so I'm not at liberty at discussing the exact trends. But yes, the trends, the turnout has been quite encouraging, and we have been discussing a lot about the turnout factors, that the relative turnout, if they go up, whether it should be treated as an anti-incumbency sentiment or a pro-incumbency sentiment. And as Dr. Sanjay Kumar and other colleagues will let you know, that probably there is no direct correlation these days of a higher or lower turnout as such to read if that is ending up in a pro or anti-incumbent turnout. Generally speaking, as a generic rule, people say that if it is a higher turnout, that it ends up in having an anti-incumbent verdict, but there have been aberrations.
I know that you can't tell us what your exit poll and post poll is showing so far, but given that there has been a high voter turnout, a large woman turnout, I read out various X factors. Is this woman factor an X factor for you in this election or not?
Well, woman factor was one of the X factor that we pointed out in Bihar elections, for sure. And it is certainly not just in Bengal, but also in other states, Kerala, or for that matter, Tamil Nadu, or even in Assam. It is an X factor, and we still need to figure out. I haven't seen a clear indication from Election Commission if the women have actually outnumbered males, just like in Bihar. Right. And that could be an X factor for sure. I totally agree.
I know Yashwant is holding his cards close to his chest and not revealing whether the trends are matching what his opinion poll said before the elections. Remember, he predicted that the Trinamool would get between 150 to 160 seats of the 294. Sanjay Kumar, your sense from what you've seen, and again, in your case, you haven't done a survey at the moment, but what's your sense from Bengal? What's that X factor that is turning out to be critical so far?
My own sense is that the 2 X factor, one is the Muslim vote and the second X factor is the women vote. Muslims are in sizable number in West Bengal, approximately 27 to 88% of the total electorate. And in the past election, they have always voted in large numbers for Trinamool Congress. If the vote of Muslims still remains intact with Trinamool Congress, that will give an advantage to Trinamool Congress. But they would also need to keep the advantage which they have among the women voters. Only turnout doesn't matter. Yes, turnout of women voters seems to be high. We have not got any figures from Election Commission, but the images which we got from the ground indicated that at least in the third phase of election, there were long queues of women voters in many polling stations. But in the past election, 2011-2016 assembly election, Trinamool Congress had a huge edge among women voters. And when I say huge edge, it is in the range of 8 to 9%. If Trinamool Congress is able to maintain that lead, I think Trinamool Congress is going to be victorious in the third election, and they will form the government after 2nd of May. If Trinamool Congress is not able to maintain the lead among the Muslims and even among the women, then Trinamool is heading for a big defeat.
So I think that the general belief is that Muslims are voting for the Trinamool in large numbers. It's the woman voter, the Mahila. It's Muslim and Mahila. Jayalalitha, Dr. Kumar, for example, would have a 10-12% lead among women. You're saying Mamata really needs that woman vote this time. Am I correct?
Yeah, but I think I would make a correction from my side. Jayalalitha also used to have lead among women voters, but not to the extent as you mentioned, Rajdeep. It used to be in the range of 4 or 5%. The biggest lead which I have seen for any political party or for any leader among women voters, it has been Trinamool Congress and Mamata Banerjee in the range of 9 to 10%. That's a huge lead among a community which is almost half of the total voters. So that kind of a lead among women voters has resulted in the kind of victory Trinamool has got in 2016 and 2011.
Okay.
So in order to register another victory, they need to maintain that lead among women voters.
Let me take that to Sajjan Kumar, because Sajjan Kumar, as I said at the start while introducing you, you've come out with a poll before the election that suggested a clear victory for the BJP in this election. Now, the woman voter, does she vote very differently to the men? Why do you believe that anti-incumbency is so powerful that it doesn't matter whether you're a male or a woman in Bengal at the moment?
Rajdeep, first of all, I mean, there is a difference of methodology, how we study the electoral mood. I mean, I employ the, qualitative method, wherein it's based more upon the narratives, trying to map out the body language, political psychology, and trying to establish a rapport before delving into the core political issue. So, first of all, as you said that in my finding, the anti-incumbency was so intense that it was not a normal anti-incumbency that you see in state Bihar and some other states. It was an anti-incumbency wherein there was a fear, and then since there was a fear, there was also a spark of hate against the incumbent, especially to the local party leadership. This is one. Second, why gender is not an optics, and why the community, religious community angle is the main fault line that is determining the electoral behavior. This is because, mind it, first, the anti-incumbency is the starting point of the mood for change in Bengal. It is not Hindutva. Hindutva is something that is, as I say, in a cake model, the base is anti-incumbency, and Hindutva is a layering. And that is why you see Hindutva, had it been the prime factor, BJP would not have faced much of the difficulty in getting the faces, the candidates. So this is one. Second, what is the source of anti-incumbency? The source of anti-incumbency hinges upon the two pillars. One, an intense level of corruption, and the corruption has undergone a qualitative shift. First, there has been a monopolization of corruption. So unlike the previous time wherein the rank and file and common men also could have participated and could have a share into the corruption, and that was a matter of, in a party society, bread and butter to lots many segment of society. Now only the Trinamool representative or the leadership could participate into the corruption. Common people are deprived. And second, there has been an intensification of corruption. And at the receiving point, while there is n number of welfare schemes that Mamata government has unleashed to voter outreach, every scheme signify intense level of cut money and corruption, and that is why corruption has emerged as the starting point and optic. Once people, let me just one sentence, once people started opposing it, be it the elderly women, be it the young women, they all were beaten, so much so that during the Amphan tragedy when the funds were plundered, people came up with the term Amphan corruption, and village after village, women were at the receiving end when they tried to go. So Mamata Banerjee's image of 2016, a woman who means a soft touch to the electorate on the ground, is already past her prime, and she won't be able to swing the mood, which is
so you're sticking to your stand that you believe the anti-incumbency has set in so firmly that you are actually seeing a potential wave election based on anger against corruption at the ground level. So that's one view. There's Sanjay Kumar who's saying, look, the Muslim Mahila combined could be critical. There is Yashwant Deshmukh who's being much more cautious because he's got a post poll that he doesn't want to reveal the numbers of, because Election Commission rules don't allow us to do that. Jayanto Ghoshal, senior journalist, as someone who's been on the ground for weeks, you know both sides closely. What's the mood in the two camps today after the third phase? This was the critical phase for Mamata. Last time the Trinamool won 29 of the 31 seats that went to the polls today. Is the mood buoyant, or is there a nervousness in the Mamata camp? Is there a greater sense of buoyancy in the BJP. What's the mood in the two camps, Jayanto?
Yeah, Rajdeep, 2016 and 2021, not same. I completely agree with the analysis. But the consolidated vote bank, the Muslim vote bank and the women vote bank, what Mamata has developed not suddenly, slowly, and I have seen when she was rail minister, she issued the monthly free pass for the women housekeeping staff, and they are coming from the suburban areas, and still till today, and I am in Bengal, I am visiting the districts, the corruption is there. I am not disagreeing, but the emotional attachment of the woman, even in Nandigram, I found that is very much solid support base of Mamata Banerjee.
But what's the mood?
And this
but
area,
is there a
31 seats, today's election.
Yes, go ahead. Sorry. Go ahead.
There is a changing scenario. BJP is aggressive and BJP is already achiever, Rajdeep. BJP was nowhere in Bengal. And since Bajpayee time, I am on looker of Bengal politics, and there is a massive, the opposition space is now occupied by the BJP only. And today, Congress and left, this third force, I have not seen. But the Siddiqui's party, what I was trying to understand, that whether they will cut the Muslim vote or not, but today, I have not seen that present. Why Siddiqui did not give any strong Muslim candidate in Nandigram? Why they avoided? And I don't know. Today, the en bloc Muslim, the sense of insecurity, now they are more consolidated for Mamata. So Mamata is starting with the 30%, near about 30% vote bank in West Bengal today. So this is,
so you're
now
saying,
Mamata's vote bank is Muslim
right.
plus.
Muslim plus.
Yeah.
So you're saying Muslim plus Mahila is what Mamata Banerjee is relying on. Are you telling me, Jayanto, that despite the aggressive campaign that the Prime Minister has taken in Bengal on the ground, your view is the BJP is fighting at the moment to occupy the entire opposition space? Are you ruling out the possibility of a wave that Sajjan Kumar is seeing?
No, see Rajdeep, I am not cephalogist, so I cannot predict the result on the basis of that type of survey. And what Sajjan Kumar is saying, the body languages and the characteristics in a different manner, I think there is a subjectivity of the understanding also.
Right.
Because as a journalist, when I have visited the several places, I am again and again saying that 2019 election also, this area, 31 seats, today's areas, actually TMC did a very good result in spite of the 18 seats they have achieved in Lok Sabha. And now BJP's aggressive campaign, Modi ji is an extremely popular national leader,
right.
And in Bengal also, Modi ji is the face, not the state leadership. There is a major vacuum. You have to translate the charisma of Modi ji and whatever he is saying, mostly in Hindi, although he is trying to say little bit Bengalis, but you know, in the remote village, like Mamata's approach, you can see for the Delhi and for the urban elite people, they can see that there is a subalternism, in the Mamata's behavior. But she is a great communicator to the rural Bengali subaltern mass, which we call Choto Lok, actually, Bhadralok and Choto Lok. But you know, that capability of, the communication is still there. And she is fighting the battle. Now, what will be the result, taste of the pudding in its eating, I cannot predict. But I am saying that she is fighting, and Modi ji versus Mamata, this is the battle. But you have to translate, you don't have the district-wise organizational capabilities.
You know, you're saying the BJP may not have the district-wise, you're saying the BJP still doesn't have the district-wise organizational capacity to translate possibly some of the Mr. Modi ji's charisma into votes.
Exactly.
However,
and that's why this. No, that's why in Nandigram also it's a battle between TMC and TMC. It's a Subhendu's TMC and Mamata's TMC. BJP's district-wise organizational capabilities are not there. That's why this turncoatism has been promoted by BJP,
Okay.
and they may get some dividend. The number are now 3 MLAs in West Bengal Assembly. Don't forget that it is 18 seats in Lok Sabha. But always there is a translation of the Lok Sabha results. It may not take place. In Delhi, in several other states, we have not seen the repetition of that result.
Okay.
So it's a completely different orange and apple. In the Lok Sabha and the Assembly is a different ball game altogether.
Okay, let's leave it
Rajdeep.
there. We focused on Bengal, and I think we got 4 different viewpoints. Professor Kumar, we'll keep coming to you, Sajjan Kumar, for more analysis in the days ahead. Thank you, Jayanto. Yashwant and Sanjay Kumar will stay with us because we are moving on to the next state. Remember, today all 4 states and union territories voted. Voting took place in a single phase in Tamil Nadu and Puducherry. The turnout was rather moderate, just over 66% up to 7:30 p.m., less than 2016. What does that really mean on the ground? Here's our report on what happened in Tamil Nadu on polling day.
Political leaders and stars queued up from early morning to cast their vote in Tamil Nadu. Chief Minister Edappadi K. Palanisamy voted in Edappadi, while Deputy CM O. Pannirselvam voted in Periyakulam. DMK Chief M.K. Stalin and his son Udayanithi, a candidate from Chepauk, voted in Chennai.
மே 2ஆம் தேதி சிறப்பாக இருக்கும் அது உறுதி. அதாவது ஆளுங்கட்சிக்கு எதிர்ப்பாக இருக்கிறது என்பதை நான் தெளிவாக உணர்கிறேன்.
These visuals, however, stole the show and the headlines. Superstar Vijay cycled to a Chennai poll booth to cast his ballot. The images instantly went viral. Talapati's move to ditch his luxury car was seen by many as a statement against the rise in fuel prices.
He has come out with a very clear message that he is sending that symbolically. I'm against the price hike of petrol. I'm against the price hike of diesel. I'm against the price hike of gas. And he is, by the way, it's come symbolic a cycle. It's a clear message for people of Tamil Nadu to vote against the BJP and the ADM.
But Vijay's team clarified that the superstar used a cycle since the booth was close to his house and he wanted to avoid congestion. Things were not smooth for actor Ajit, who snapped after a fan tried to force a selfie with him. Ajit angrily snatched his camera, only to return it later and asking the unruly fan to leave. Actor, politician and Makkal Needhi Mayyam chief Kamal Hassan, along with daughters Shruti and Akshara, voted in Chennai.
Excuse me, Mr. Kamal Hassan, why are you disrupting a queue? Why are you creating so much chaos here?
At the polling station, there was a minor ruckus as voters waiting in queue got upset over crowding after Kamal's arrival. Superstar Rajnikanth, who gave up his political plans too, exercised his franchise in the Tamil capital. Actors Vikram, Vijay Sethupathi, Trisha and Jayam Ravi too cast their votes. The day had its share of controversies too. The DMK filed a complaint against BJP's Thousand Lights candidate Khushbu Sundar for having the BJP flag on her car when she went to vote. Hours later, the AIA-DMK filed a similar complaint against Stalin's son Udayanithi for wearing the DMK badge at the time of voting. With Pramod Madhav, Akshay Nath and Akshita Nandagopal, Bureau Report, India Today.
Let's turn now to the X factors, and it's X, not EX factors of Tamil Nadu. Is a 10-year anti-incumbency too big for the AIDMK to overcome? Remember, no government has survived a 10-year period in office in Tamil Nadu since the late and great MGR in the 1970s and 80s. Can AIDMK retain the woman vote? Critical, because both AIDMK and DMK promising many freebies to women. Jayalalitha always had a strong lead among women. Will Sashikala, the former AIDMK chief's assistant, her supporters, will they ditch the AIDMK? Remember, her nephew Dinakaran's AMMK in the fray. It has a tie-up with Vijaykant, Ovesi, and therefore could damage the AIDMK. The Thevar community is a key player in many seats also. Will the BJP drag down the AIDMK? This is the one state where the BJP's popularity is well below its national average. could it drag down the BJP as a result? How will an exclusive quota for 1 year play out? Remember, this is the caste community of the PMK, and this community in northern Tamil Nadu had traditionally been seen to pull in the votes. Can it help the AIDMK? It's in alliance, remember, with the AIDMK, or will it lead to a backlash from other castes? And a final X factor, who will Kamal Hassan and the other smaller parties hurt, those who are engaged in a multipolar contest? Will Kamal Hassan and his M&M vote share prove crucial? Will he take away DMK votes? These are some of the questions we want to raise. Joining Sanjay Kumar and Yashwant Deshmukh now is TM Veera Raghav, who tracks Tamil Nadu very closely for us. Appreciate your joining us there, Veera. Give us your sense. What do you believe is the main X factor? The polling has been relatively low today.
That's right, Rajdeep. I want to start by the first fundamental analysis is that this is for the first time in history, I mean in recent history at least since the Dravidian party split into two and you had an MGR Karunanidhi battle, that this is actually an election between two political parties at the grassroots level, not overshadowed by a battle between two personalities, which is why what an O Paneerselvam matters beyond just a Bodi Nayakanur. It matters what an Edappadi Palanichami says beyond Edappadi. Stalin is not the only campaigner. Unlike in the past, though Stalin has great stature within his party, when Karunanidhi went to campaign, everything revolved around Karunanidhi. Not much attention was focused on the others who campaigned. This time a Stalin matters, a Kanimuri matters, an Udayanidhi matters within their party, though it's all within that family. So I think the first fundamental factor is that compared to previous elections, this is not a two-personality contest, so you might not have a singular kind of result that Tamil Nadu has thrown up in the past. Talking about voter turnout today, Rajdeep, from the numbers that I have, I find it interesting that in southern Tamil Nadu, and I'm not saying this is the larger rule, my cursory analysis of the voter turnout is that I see lesser voter turnout in southern Tamil Nadu. I see better voter turnout in western and northern Tamil Nadu. As you pointed out, an important factor is the 1 year OBC, 1 year quota issue. Is that going to result in a counter consolidation of other castes? Or is it going to result in a 1 year consolidation that's going to sail the AIDMK through in that sense? B, and the most important factor according to me in southern Tamil Nadu, Rajdeep, is the split in the Tevar vote. If you take a constituency like Bodi Nayakanur, where O Paneerselvam, the Tevar face of the AIDMK, is contesting, he's contesting against a Thanga Tamilchelvan, who was a sitting MLA who went out. Thanga Tamilchelvan was a 3-time representative from the Andipatti constituency, which is a prestige seat in Tamil Nadu. Now, he was with TTV Dinakaran, now with the DMK and contesting there. TTV Dinakaran himself contesting from Kovilpatti. So that's a critical factor.
So you're saying,
so in a sense, this election,
you're saying a disunited,
it's not a unified, unitary.
Yeah, but clearly this, many believe, Professor Sanjay Kumar, is perhaps the easiest election this time to predict. 10 years is a long time in Tamil Nadu politics. Jayalalitha no longer there. The AIDMK suffered a big defeat in the Lok Sabha elections 2 years ago. Do you believe that one can safely suggest at any stage that the DMK has all the advantages, aces? Or could it be that Palanisami's popularity post-COVID could mean that this is a closer race?
All the factors which you have mentioned, and going by the past electoral history of the state, yes, it is easier to make a prediction of Tamil Nadu in this elections compared to the past election, because it would be very difficult for AIDMK to beat 10 years of anti-incumbency, though I must say I do not get a sense of very strong anti-incumbency on the ground.
Right.
There is no enthusiasm in favor of the ruling party, neither do I see a strong anti-incumbency. But if I look at the electoral history, no party has been able to be in power for 10 years, and AIDMK has already been in power for 10 years. So that's point number one, why I think DMK is almost set to win this election. Also, if I look at the alliances, the kind of alliances DMK has been able to put up, in my opinion, it's a much better alliance compared to what AIDMK has been able to put up. And AIDMK alliance with BJP is not going to help AIDMK. Also, if you look at the pattern of ticket distribution, AIDMK alliance has not given tickets to any Muslims, any Christians, people candidate belonging to Christian community or Muslim community. While if you look at the ticket distribution, it has been better within the DMK alliance. So all these factors makes me believe that DMK is almost set to win 2021 election.
Interesting. Someone at least putting his putting his cards on the table saying DMK set to win. Yashwant Deshmukh, your survey also seemed to suggest a fairly comfortable victory for the DMK. Anything to have made you change your mind in the last week or 2 weeks?
I said this earlier as well, Rajdeep. I mean, with all due credit to the current Chief Minister, I always try to give up a hypothetical scenario that even if Ms. Jayalalitha would have been alive today, she would have found it extremely difficult to, cover the 10 years of anti-incumbency sentiment. So, I mean, let's not blame EPS or OPS for that. They have been actually giving a very wonderful fight, in my opinion. I also see this election as a kind of rebooting of Tamil Nadu politics. You know, when I say rebooting, when the two major characters, political strong characters, are no more there, probably we are going to see the base vote of the party organizations in these elections. So that rebooting, the service system has been reset. And after this election, we will know what kind of individual party. And
so are you saying the smaller parties, Yashwant, the Kamal Hassans, who many think might take away the DMK vote, or the AMMK of Dinakaran, who may take away the AIDMK, are they playing a role or not?
Well, that's an interesting point. All these smaller groups, our tracker has been for almost like 6 months, have been showing somewhere between 3% to 7% kind of votes for them. Now, if they would have been in one of the two alliances, that would have resulted in the number of seats for either of the alliances.
Right.
But just not being there, just getting those many votes is unlikely to end up giving too many seats to them. That's my thing. But for future negotiations, these could become a base value for their support base. But however, I would still see that the X factor of these elections would be probably Mr. Stalin, because he was groomed well for almost 15 years by Karunanidhi. I wouldn't say that he has filled up that vacuum for 100%, but if I may say, I mean, in a very subjective way,
right.
That the charisma of Karunanidhi and that kind of leadership, he probably has filled up over the last few years, almost like 60-70% of that vacuum, while the successes of AIADMK, they have probably not even filled up 50% of the charisma of Jayalalitha. So obviously, it's a complete reboot of Tamil Nadu politics, and we'll know by the party-based vote share and the future alliances that it will trigger on the negotiation table for, for example, 2024 Lok Sabha election. That will be very interesting.
Can I just very quickly, Veera Raga, because we are going through all the states, your prediction also, is the DMK heading for a comfortable victory? And what is that X factor that you believe gives them a sense of comfort? Very quickly.
I think the weight of the lotus is too difficult to take for the stem of the two leaves, Rajdeep. I think that's the main factor, and I think the DMK alliance is poised for a comfortable victory.
You're saying the BJP is a liability?
Put up a fight.
You're saying the BJP is a liability for the IDMK?
BJP is a liability. BJP is a liability, and it got pronounced when you bring a leader like Yogi Adityanath to campaign in Tamil Nadu. The Tamil identity under threat narrative only gets bolstered, and I think the BJP still has a lot of work to do in Tamil Nadu before becoming acceptable politically. In fact, that is the big liability for the AIADMK in these elections.
Okay, let's leave it there. We've moved on. Veera Raga will now leave us because we are turning to Kerala, where we are joined by K.S. Sachidanand Murthy, veteran journalist and someone who's been with the Malayalam Manorama group, the leading group of Kerala. And I want to turn, therefore, to Kerala. Polling in Kerala ended with a nearly 74% voter turnout. Again, not as high as many thought. Chief Minister Pinarayi Vijayan, BJP's E. Sridharan, Leader of the Opposition Ramesh Chennithala, former Chief Minister Umang Chandi, Congress MP Shashi Tharoor, all spotted exercising their voter franchise. Remember, Pinarayi Vijayan is hoping to defeat history. No Chief Minister in Kerala has been re-elected in the last 40 years. Interestingly, the discourse on the last day taken over by the Sabrimala issue, with every political party raising it. In fact, the Chief Minister claiming that Ayyappa and all other gods were with the left front government. Let's go then to our panelists once again. To you, Sachidanand Murthy, before I come to you, let me give the X factors of Kerala. Kerala, will the welfare measures that Pinarai's government has put in prove a winner? Remember, he's enjoyed goodwill in post-COVID Kerala over food kits, pension schemes. How is Sabrimala going to play out? The Nair community body, NSS, has broken silence, saying people want change. Can the Kerala Congress money, which is a Christian-dominated group, and join the LDF, can it get the LDF Christian votes? The Congress ally for decades, now with the left front. What about the Muslim votes? Young Muslims have seen left front as a better counter to the BJP than the Congress, many believe, in local body polls. What about the Rahul Priyanka Gandhi factor? Can they convert the crowds they've attracted into votes? They've been very popular among voters on the campaign trail. Sachidanand Murthy, which of these X factors make sense? Kerala very closely contested in most elections. What could be the key factor? Can Pinarayi Vijayan rescript history?
Yeah, because this is an election where he is a key factor, because he's the only vote getter for the left front, because no other CPM leader, no leader of any allied party, whether it is the CPI or the Kerala Congress Mani, which just hopped from UDF to the LDF, bringing a major Christian party into the fold of the LDF. So, but then he has been there, he is the issue. But either people like him or hate him. There is nobody who is ignoring him. So that is what he's, and as you rightly said, his welfare schemes. But then also you must know that the Keralites have gone through virtual difficult times, 2 major floods, the crisis of COVID, everything. So there has been huge economic problems in Kerala. A lot of people have returned from the Gulf. So the Kerala economy has been quite seriously affected due to all these crises. So whereas the welfare measures have given some relief, but still the question is how secure or insecure is the Malayali in this situation. Then Sabrimala factor. But if you look at again the voting today in the southern districts, because Sabrimala is a important factor in the southern districts compared to the northern districts, which have had much higher polling. But despite the Sabrimala controversy cropping up this morning, the voter turnout in Pathanamthitta, where the Sabrimala shrine is located, where Prime Minister Modi made the crowds chant Swami Sharanam Ayyappa, or in Trivandrum, which is again a strong Hindu district, the voting percentage has been comparatively less. So I have a feeling that this election has gone down to the wire. Whoever wins will win with a very short, single-digit difference in the thing which had happened.
Very interesting.
10 years
so
ago.
you're almost suggesting that 2021 could be like 2011, which was a very closely run election where the left where the Congress just about edged it in that election over the Achyutanandan government. But I want to understand from you, Sanjay Kumar, this is an interesting state because 2 relatively stable alliances that alternate power. Could there be an X factor possibly in the Christian vote this time? Many believe that that's the community where we are seeing the maximum flux in Kerala.
I do see that this is an election which is being closely contested in Kerala. But one X factor you did not mention, in my opinion, that's going to be an X factor, and that is about how BJP in alliance with the other regional, small regional parties going to perform in this election. My own sense is that even though BJP may not be able to win large number of seats, and when I say large number, this is compared to the previous assembly election. In the previous assembly, BJP had 1 MLA in the house.
Right.
So even though BJP may not be able to increase the tally too much, but the BJP's vote share is going to go up definitely. That's my assessment of what is going to happen in Kerala.
And my sense
more
is,
the
my sense
BJP's
is
vote
correct.
share goes up,
Yes,
it is
go
going
ahead.
to damage.
Go ahead.
So it is going to damage UDF much more than the LDF. That is why UDF is on a sleepy wicket, and LDF has a better chance of winning this election, the 2021 election. And the other indicator why I think LDF has a better chance is the local body election, which were held just about 10 months ago, in which LDF did much better compared to the UDF performance. It is true that UDF swept the election in 2019 Lok Sabha election, but after that the local body election seems to have changed the mood of the people. So I think these three factors make me believe that LDF has a better chance, and this state might see an upset compared to the trend which we have seen in the state during last 4 decades.
You're really putting your neck on the line, but I agree with you, because that's what I sensed when I was in Kerala, that if the BJP increases its vote share, the UDF is in trouble. So what the BJP gets could become a critical factor in this election in Kerala. Sachidanand Murthy, thanks very much for joining us. We've got time to move to the final state that we are looking at, and that's the state of Assam, where voting finally concluded for a third and final phase poll in the state. Nearly an 80% turnout was reported in this final phase, mainly in Lower Assam. Also, Guwahati went to the polls. BJP strongman and Assam Minister Himanta Biswa Sarma's fate also being sealed. He exercised his franchise in Guwahati earlier today. Nearly 81% voter turnout took place. And remember, overall, Assam has seen a relatively good voter turnout. So there you have the fourth state, and these are my X factors for Assam. Can the Congress AIUDF alliance sweep Lower Assam? That's critical for them to have any chance. Remember, will the CA be a factor? Thousands of Hindus left out of NRC. BJP has now promised a corrected NRC. Who are the smaller regional parties hurting, like Akhil Gogoi's Raijor Dal, the Assam Jatiyo Parishad? Will they eat into BJP votes, or will they eat into Congress votes? Will the absence of Tarun Gogoi hurt the Congress? Interesting question to ask. Leadership vacuum in the Congress. Will the strong Modi factor that we've seen in Assam offset anti-incumbency, the BJP banking on the Prime Minister's popularity? Kaushik Deka, our man from Assam, India Today's senior editor, joining us. Kaushik, your sense of Assam after the voter turnout, the overall picture, what's the critical X factor? A quick answer.
The X factor to me was the polarization. It was very clear that in Assam, the voting happened along religious lines, because as you saw that BJP raised the issue of Ajmal, what they made it a symbol of aggression from Bangladesh, all the infiltration issue that's going on in Assam for long. Now they have packaged it as a religious issue. And Congress tried to cash in on the Citizenship Amendment Act, which means that it will give citizenship to Hindu immigrants. So basically, it was a fight between BJP's polarization versus Congress and AUDF's promises of repealing the Citizenship Amendment Act. And to me, I believe the BJP has an edge in this game of polarization. Right. Of course, in a state which has 40% Muslim population, official estimate is 35%, but by now that's 10 years old estimate, but by now I think it's 40%. So 40% Muslim population, definitely it will give some advantage to Congress and AUDF as they have tied up. But the way the polarization went through and the way BJP performed in Upper Assam, and and the emergence of these new two parties, Raijor Dal and AJP, they would do probably more damage to Congress and AUDF than to BJP.
Interesting. So you're saying polarization in a way, not just religious, but also Upper Assam in a way with Lower Assam, all working towards to give the BJP a slight edge, you believe. But Yashwant Deshmukh, both Kerala and Assam, many believe these are the two tough states of this election. I know Bengal is where all the attention is, but margins tend to be low in Assam and in Kerala. It's closely contested. Which is the most difficult election, according to you, at the moment, out of these four that we've looked at? Which could be the closest? Where could the real surprise come from?
Both, actually, Rajdeep. And I would just agree, not just agree with what Kaushik just said. I would like to just underline it further. There are now not one single Assam, Rajdeep. There are two different Assam. One is the kind of politically Muslim Assam and politically Hindu Assam. It may sound really rude and bad to say that, but that's a fact. And why just blame only Assam? That's the same thing is happening in Bengal, and same thing even happening in Kerala, Rajdeep. Only thing is that the communal parties in Kerala are not BJP. The communal parties are basically Congress and the CPM. You know, Congress playing the Muslim part of the Kerala and CPM playing the Hindu and Christian part of the Kerala. So it's this entire, if you ask me one X factor, you know, which in this entire wave of round of election is bringing through, is that I am alarmed to see the way the communal divide is deepening across it. And it is not just the BJP which is playing with that, and that the secular parties are also playing the same game in Kerala. So it's, when you look, when the final results would be out, Rajdeep, you will figure out one set of party in their religious zone leading by 10 to 15 point votes, 10 to 15% lead, one-way traffic. And the other going in the counter-polarization, 10 to 15% lead in the other side. That's what our tracker has been saying for long. I mean, that's what we are looking at. It was just started like that, and then it started opening up. And now it looks like we are not having one Assam. We are looking at two different Assams, Hindu and Muslim Assam. Similarly, in Kerala, the same kind of thing. We may say North Kerala, Central Kerala, South Kerala. I mean, it's fine.
Right.
It looks nice, Rajdeep, but the fact is, you will see similar communal polarization: Muslim seats, Hindu seats, Christian seats. LDF having an advantage on the Hindu and the Christian side of it, Congress having an advantage on the Muslim side.
The irony of it, of course, is the one thing that should unite India at this time is economic distress. And in all these, while there is beneficiary politics that politicians speak about, at election time, the narrative in many of these states, you're right, has turned towards religious identity politics. We've heard from all sides. Sanjay Kumar, I have 30 seconds to ask you, since you're putting your neck on the line. Am I to say that you believe DMK well ahead in Tamil Nadu, Kerala left has an edge, Assam, as Kaushik seems to suggest, BJP with the edge, and Bengal, it is Didi versus Modi and no one wants to say who's won? Correct?
Absolutely. I would ditto what you have said, Rajdeep, and you can put my name against the statement which you have given, that this is a statement given by Sanjay Kumar.
Okay, let's leave it there. I know this is all before the real thing. Unfortunately, Yashwant can't tell us what his post-poll data is saying. We'll leave that for another day. But to all three of you and to all my guests who've joined us today, thanks very much for analyzing all those X factors on this Super Tuesday, where 4 states and the Union Territory of Puducherry, sorry we didn't have time for Puducherry, maybe on another day,